A legacy for man, Tadhg Dowling.
The menacing silhouette of a policeman on your doorstep in the dark, early hours of a winter's morning sends an alarming shiver down your spine. When his opening words are, "I'm sorry," your worst fears are confirmed. We had stayed late at the hospital in Dublin on the Friday night, and we knew that my sister's post-surgery situation was grim. But none of us could come to accept that a bright, lively, happy 12-year-old could come to this in the space of 10 days. It contradicted every instinct of our existence. How could we, a close-knit, religious family who thanked God daily for our health and for our comfort, be fractured, shattered, blown to pieces, without fault, without warning, without explanation? I was riding high in 1972. I did well at school. I was rewarded with a good career at the largest company in town. At 23, I was a reasonable rugby player and was captain of the local team. I had money in my pocket. I drove a nice car, while friends of mine were still borrowing their parents' car or relying on me for a lift. I was fairly smug. In fact, I was a cocky young upstart. And then, on that horrendous Saturday morning, I found myself in dismal silence, as I wished with every sinew of my being that I could roll the clock back 2 weeks, sacrifice all of this just to have Anne back in our family. Take my blooming car, cut off my legs so I can't play sport, take my job, take my career, take whatever you like, just give me back my sister. Mr. Contest Chair, ladies and gentlemen, it should not have taken the death of a young sibling to jolt my twisted priorities into alignment. Understanding what's important in life comes naturally to many people. Some recognize it early. Perhaps to those who have little, it comes more easily. And unfortunately, for people like me, it comes only with disaster. When Benjamin Franklin was 20 years old, he defined and recorded 13 principles by which he would live. And for the rest of his extraordinary life, this renowned scientist, inventor, author, statesman gauged his movements, his actions, and his judgments against his principles. Because he'd considered it so carefully, it often came as second nature, but not always the soft option. But then, as we know, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And if you don't know what you stand for, then you're going to be on your face very often. Now, you don't have to accept Benjamin Franklin's principles. After all, one of his principles was chastity, except for the purpose of procreation. And I don't see too many hands going up for that one. But the fact is, people like Benjamin knew what they stood for and knew what was important for them. A policeman friend of mine in Melbourne tells a story of coming on an accident on the Nepean Highway. And this Lamborghini driver was distraught. His car had been sideswiped. The door was gone. And he was in tears. Look at it! My baby! It's all I've worked for! It's me! It's all about me! This is my baby! It's ruined! The policeman said to him, "You are so typically materialistic. You're all upset about your car, and you haven't even noticed that your arm has been ripped off." He said, "What? My Rolex? My gold Rolex? Oh no!" Now, some people will lie on their deathbed wishing they had spent more time at the office. And there are some of us who will fret and worry about things that really, in 5 years' time, in 1 year's time, just won't matter. And I wonder if people could take the time to think about what is important. Because for my family, we have a legacy from Anne. On that awful December morning, we gazed into each other's souls and we swore a secret oath of allegiance. We're not the perfect family. Like Ai Ming and her sister, we irritate each other. We disagree on things. But beneath all of that, we do have an overriding principle. Because the legacy from Anne is that a lens has been implanted which allows us to identify the small stuff. And our family has two rules, Mr. Contest Chair. The first is, don't sweat the small stuff. And the second rule, ladies and gentlemen, is it's almost all small stuff. Mr. Contest Chair.